Well, good morning and welcome to the Sports Bar Show. Friday morning, I think it is. I'm losing track of time because one day just seems to blend into another at the moment. But I'm happy to say we are on the Sports Bar Show this morning, chewing the fat and talking balls. And I'm happy to say, as always, I'm joined with the manager of Birkett Borough, Mr. Brent Peters. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Steve. Somebody tells me it's not just a regular Friday; it's actually Good Friday. But is anything good about? But is anything good about this time of the year at the moment? I don't know.
I'm not sure, sir, to be honest with you, because we had some. We're going to be talking quite a lot about what's been happening over the last 24 hours, and not good news as far as we're concerned, and possibly the vast majority of Step 3 to Step 7 football clubs as well, Brent.
Well, before you start firing a load of questions at me and points at me, I'd just like to say I decided to come out again this morning wearing my Northwest Counties attire with quite good pride, because as a member club and on behalf of the clubs out there that were fighting for promotion and, and unfortunately the ones that had actually got promotion and looked certainties to be promoted, unfortunately, it seems like with the season becoming nil and void, it's not going to happen now, and I feel so sorry for them. But one thing's why I'm bringing my attire out of the Northwest Counties League with pride is because Paul Warlawler's work on this should not go unnoticed. The way he's backed his clubs, it's been absolutely terrific.
Definitely.
And and that's why I thought I'm wearing my attire today of the Northwest Counties League with pride, knowing that we had a chairman really, really working hard to represent his clubs.
Yeah, well, I'm going to come on to Paul later on, but first of all, Brent, I'm just putting up on the screen the statement that was made by the FA yesterday. The FA Council has today ratified the decision to conclude the 2019-20 season across steps 3 to 7 of the National League system, tiers 3 to 7 of the women's football pyramid, and the wider grassroots game. They made a statement. I'm not going to read all of it. I'm not going to bore people because we already know the outcome of that, Brent. But the statement was made yesterday, and a lot of people we've spoken to, vast majority, not happy with that decision at all. But I think we expected it, didn't we?
Well, it's not really about yesterday, Steve. Although that was the final nail in the coffin, it's not really about yesterday. I think it goes back deeper than yesterday. I think it goes back to the points that Walker Morris, the solicitor that represented the clubs, the several points that he made out in the letter that he addressed to the Football Association, and points that really haven't been answered yet. But it goes back to the fact that is it Lawrence Jones, who's the head of the National Leagues, and at step 3 and 4, where it seems like they've made a decision amongst themselves that's kept the step 5, 6, 7 clubs kind of in the dark. And that's where I think all this problem stems from. I think in the latter part of the situation, probably once it's got to the FA for ratification, probably the FA have conducted what they should conduct probably correctly. I'm not sure, but I think they probably have, and the way they've gone about it is in the latter stages, but it's in the beginning. And what I can't understand is why the FA, if they've had all these letters of clubs from all over the country in support and against this nil and void situation, and making complete valid points, i.e. represented by this solicitor that made all the valid points, and it was an excellent letter. I mean, I went through it like a fine-tooth comb, and it was absolutely brilliantly put together. It smells to me that I smell a rat, big time, and it isn't the first time I smelled a rat, because I've been in this league, around this league, a long time, and I've had situations in the past where kind of when decisions have been made, I've questioned it, but I've been a lone ranger because it's not really affected so many clubs. What I was saying, but in the democratic world, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I can't understand it. Like for instance, like we've touched on this before. Like for instance, when they brought in the fact that a Step 6 club would get relegated into a Step 7 league, but the Step 7 leagues at the minute aren't up to speed where with the ground grades and everything else as it is at Step 6. So the big issue is there. If you know yourself in football, you know, you could have tremendous several good years, average years with your results, but if you go through a barren spell in terms of financial situations off the pitch, like we tend to do a lot here at Bacup, like when we've had we've had problems where I came up one morning and the stand roof's in the middle of the pitch, which is a financial problem for us. And then another season where the old changing room block. Sorry, the changing room block was in the middle of the pitch. And then another season with the storms, we had the stand roof off.
Yeah.
So when you get financial implications like that and you have to start investing in your structure more than you invest in your team, you could end up in a situation where you could have a barren season on the pitch. And if you have a barren season on the pitch, you could end up in a relegation position. And if you end up in a relegation position and then you find that you get relegated into a kind of an amateur league, where you're playing on open fields, they don't get many people watching them. They don't have the same ground grading criteria as what Step 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 clubs have. It becomes your history of a club could be lost overnight by making some ridiculous decision like that, in my opinion. So there's been, and then when one season you can have 2 seasons, you can have the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, just because it suits them, we're not having playoffs now. You're not having playoffs. Well, how can you run operations like that? 1 minute you and it's only 2 seasons ago. Believe me, look back, it's 2 seasons ago that we were all entering a season, and nobody, because there hadn't any big decisions been made, we didn't know what we were playing for. Nobody knew. No teams knew whether they were going to be 3 up, 2 up, 1 up. How many teams were going to get relegated? How many teams were going to get laterally removed? They hadn't made a decision. The season started. So, and I made a point then of thinking, how can you go in a season, starting a season, and you don't know where your destiny is? In terms of what you're aiming for. So, the decisions that's made at National League with this Lawrence Jones and his cronies down there, for me, it doesn't ring true. And I think what's got to happen now going forward, I firmly believe, with the backing of this solicitor, all clubs need to rally round, and if it's going to cost a few bob to do it, and we all chip in, I know money's tight at the minute and horrendously tight, but I think for the future of our game, and they keep saying it's our game, I think that we've got to fight the FA to be a reform really at non-league level. I think it's important because it seems to me that the decisions being made that aren't unilaterally correct.
Do you think that's, from what I get from this, from my take of this and talking to a lot of people, Brent, in the non-league game, there seems to be a lack of representation at our level. We don't seem to have that voice.
Well, that's what seems to be coming out. That nobody listens to because it's getting controlled from higher up the pyramid.
Though you told me, Brent, that how many clubs are at Step 5 and 6 level in the football?
Well, I'd seen a quote from is he called Ollie Bayliss, who's doing a very, very good job for the non-league team.
He's doing a fantastic job, is Ollie Bayliss, covering the non-league scene.
Yeah, and I seen a fact on Ollie Bayliss where he broke it all down, and he said it was something like across Step 6, Step 5, it was something like over 600 plus clubs, whereas at 3 and 4 you're down to plus 200 clubs.
Yeah,
so there's a vast difference. So it doesn't surprise me. I know, listen, we've got to be very, very careful on this show. What we say, emotions could run away with us, and we could say things we don't really.
Yeah, well,
we want to say, but we've got to be
we don't
careful.
really need to talk on that one, do we?
No, but what I'm saying is we've got to be very careful what we say. But it seems to me that the reason why they don't try and give steps 5 and 6 a voice is because they would be far outnumbered decision making than what they would be at step 3 and 4. So consequently, it doesn't need somebody with a pea brain to understand if they wanted this season for whatever reasons null and void, they needed to make sure that step 5.
Yeah, exactly. Being the cynic, you wouldn't be bringing us into the equation because that could cause some problems for you.
Correct. That's exactly right. And if the powers that be at the Football Association, who kind of they're answerable to, can't see that and don't want to look into that and want to go around it themselves with their eyes shut, then that then gives me an opportunity myself to turn around and think, well, are there's basically using the word corrupt as them.
Yeah, it does smell. I want to move on because you spoke to me yesterday afternoon regarding getting an email from the Lancashire Football Association. How did that pan out, Brent?
Well, this is another absolute shambles to me. It's a shambles, right? So again, going back to Ollie Bayliss earlier on in the week when he said that the board of the Football Association had met and it was going to go to the council members and they had to do an electronic vote. The council members. This is kind of on one of Ollie Bayliss's breakdowns on his Twitter feed. So I was just reading like everybody else. So obviously that, and then it said to me, it basically broke it down again, and it said, out of all the council members, these are the ones who can vote, and it listed them. And one of them happened to be, the representative of the chief executive of the Lancashire Football Association, Steve Gerrard. His name was on there, and he was one that could have a vote. Now, in my opinion, at this point, kind of, and this is me just looking at it from my point of view, I kind of think that probably Steve, in a way, has probably done it right and fair towards his own members of the Lancashire Football Association, which Bacup Borough are one of them. So what he's done, instead of him being a voice and going, well, I think that we should be impersonally nil and void and voting, because he's got a right to do, because looking at Ollie Bayliss's Twitter account, and then obviously where it says that the councillors have had to go away and vote electronically. Now, is that voting electronically where they've got to, before they make a decision as a councillor, that they've got to go out into the public domain for the clubs and try and get their opinions, or is it their vote and what they think? I kind of don't know. But what I do know, if it were what they think, and Simon in what he's done, I think kind of Simon's probably done it right, because he's probably thought, hang on, this is the future of some of my clubs in Lancashire. So he's probably gone, hang on, I'm not making this decision, and this isn't going to ride on my neck. I'm going to put it out to the clubs and see what the clubs want to do. So hurriedly, and I don't know whether this is right, wrong, or indifferent, what I'm saying, but hurriedly, obviously, because there were a time span, he's sending emails out to the Lancashire clubs for us to do what he classes a web vote. So I happened to just glance at my emails at some round about 11 o'clock, and we'd only got till 2 o'clock, and we'd to go.
How come, Brent? How come you're getting an email at 11 o'clock when a vote's got to be cast for 2? Wouldn't they have prior notice to this?
Well, I would have thought so, but it goes deeper than that. This is what I don't get. Kind of, it's all right, Simon, for Lancashire, sending that out to the members in kind of the Lancashire FA, but I'm led to believe that the people down in Cheshire They didn't have anything like this. They've not had to vote on anything. I could be wrong, but I'm not. So what's happened to the people who can vote in Merseyside, in Cheshire, and
who were all part of the Northwest Counties?
Who are all part of the Northwest Counties. So whatever vote's gone from Simon, to me, seems a bit watered down.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it, because if we're doing it, why is it other parts of the country not doing it? And equally, I'll be honest with you, when I didn't get through on the, I'll be honest with you, I mean, when it comes to blinking modern day technology where you have to start doing webinar, I mean, it's not every day we have to do this webinar, is it? And stuff like that, and we're in lockdown, so it was a bit confusing to me, and we're asking for password for this, password for that. So eventually I didn't get on the webinar, so I had a telephone number to ring, which happened to be Simon's number. So I rang up, fair credit to Simon, he rings me back. But before I said, right, so what's happening, Simon? So Simon gave me he said, oh, well, some of it isn't relevant to you. He said, what is relevant to you is the vote on for step 6 clubs, nil and void. So I asked him then at that point, I said, what's my options? Nil and void to, is it nil and void to points per game? Oh no, there's no other options. It's either yes, you agree with nil and void, or no, you don't agree with nil and void. And he said, and I'll be honest with you, the 40% of the vote at the minute is going with nil and void. So I went, so at that point, I've gone, well, I'm not going to be an hypocrite. I said all along that I don't agree with nil and void, so that's my vote. I don't agree with it. He said, right, thanks, and off he went. So, but then I'm sat down after I put the phone down.
Why is he telling you what the vote is?
I'm thinking to myself, how does he know there's 40%? Surely a vote should be private. It should be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How would he know? Because I'm thinking it's all ridiculously, it's all a farce, in my opinion. It's a complete farce. And then when you find out the Northwest Counties League didn't even find the decision on Twitter about later on at night, what's all that about? It's like basically working for somebody, you work for somebody, and you're like getting told third hand.
Yeah, because I know that Paul put something out on social media last night saying that he didn't receive confirmation of the ratification until about 9:45 last night. Yet it was out on social media late afternoon.
I know, exactly. I don't know. I mean, honestly, Steve, this is what I mean about the old pro. And because we're only a little non-league clubs, we're down here at step 5 and 6, and we're not part of the big fish, up there at conference level where we're knocking on the door for football league status.
But aren't we supposed to be in this together?
But we're in it together, and this is what I mean. If they're making decisions where
that's the slogan.
A club's future could be decided, but it's kind of not being decided. A club's future is not being decided fair and square, and people have got vested interest. I mean, why are people initially, forget the FA at minute, why are people who represent this game, the national game system, why have they got connections with football clubs? It's I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Yeah. You're all in it together. It's bonkers. It's ridiculous. This is people's livelihood. Look, I feel sorry. I keep saying it. It's got Bacup Borough. We're not in. It'd be easy for me to think, what am I getting involved in all this fucking palaver for? But one day, and we said it on the podcast, right? We could be in this situation. Yeah. And I feel for these clubs,
could be anybody.
That's invested heavily. I feel for the clubs that were probably last year at step 7 that have worked tirelessly to meet the ground grading time scale.
But that's another problem that we spoke about, Brent. The fact that these clubs such as the Isle of Man and even Bury to a degree, I suppose, with the Phoenix Club.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's going to have a. But let's just go back to what I was trying to say there for the clubs from last year.
Yeah.
Like the clubs from step 7 last year that's wanting to break into, that's met the deadline to come in. They've already spent thousands of pounds on their infrastructure, right? And the ones that were already in step 6 last year, like say for instance, Lower Breck, right? Who are up there and knocking on the door. and you've got your AFC Liverpools of the world who's knocking on the door for promotion. They've invested, whether they've not invested on their kind of facilities, they've invested heavily through sponsorship and everything else, investors on the playing side, you know. And the simple fact is, these investors who put money, you know, I mean, they're not. They might have been here last season, but they're not forced to be there next season because somebody might. I'm not saying this has happened, but somebody could have come up to them and said, "Look, you know, you want to get a lift up, you want to get a leg up to that next level. I'll tell you what, this season we'll back you and we'll give you a leg up as best we can. We'll give you that leg up." So they've gone in and invested them to give them a leg up on the commercial side. They've given them a leg up and they've succeeded. To it be a null and void situation when it's a waste of time.
Yeah,
I just don't understand how you can play. And don't forget, we're talking literally when this shut down. I think there was only probably about maximum 2 months of the season left to play. So they played over 3/4 of the season. Yeah. So to completely wipe a season off is kind of
course
not right.
There's other leagues, Brent, that probably played less games than the Northwest counties.
I get that, and I know it's probably not. It's not an equal playing field, and I get that. I understand that, but it's an unprecedented times. It's not like you're in the first part of the season. You was in the last part of the season. You was in the final. You're at the business end of the season. The business end. That's where you were. Now, look, we could discuss it. We'd spend too long on here. I've seen it. They can't even get it right so everybody argues on social media for and against on points per game.
Yeah.
But surely points per game, however they work it, would have been a fairer model than just saying the season's finished.
Yeah,
right? In my opinion. But equally, it's not our job. We're not paid executives. It's their job at the FA, who are paid executives, right, to find a way. Now, is it because they don't want to find a way because there's too much going on and there isn't enough manpower? I don't know that. But could they not? I mean, I'm only asking the question and I've not looked into it. But there's been some good points made in the past on social media that clubs that people have put on what could have happened. I mean, for instance, could one situation not have been all right if they were frightened of because some clubs could have dropped into the relegation positions. Bottom places could have changed hands. Surely, if they looked at the old system, bearing in mind there's a new league coming in that hasn't been filled yet at step 4.
Yeah.
Allocation of places haven't been made yet at step 4. Bearing in mind they haven't done the lateral movements yet, because that would have only have happened at the end of the season. So if that's the situation, why did they? I'm just asking the question. Could they not have sat down and worked a way where there's no relegation at all from any of the leagues throughout the league, and promoted the ones that when it stopped, automatically just give them a promotion and filled up the step 4 league that way, and at least it's a fairer process. I don't know. You know, there'll be people saying that's bonkers. He's talking bonkers. I don't know. I mean, it needs time. You can't just think about it in 5 seconds, 10 seconds on air.
You know,
but all I know is
asking questions and pointing it out there.
Yeah, but for me to just nil and void a season in your last kind of, it's like the Grand National getting to the last furlong and the blinking horses are in front and they say, "Oh, stop! Right, well, we're cancelling the race now."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, we're cancelling. It's not happening. You know, we didn't like that horse that were in front.
Yeah.
So it's not happening. But coming back to your Bury situation and people like Bury, I kind of, and this is no disrespect to the Phoenix Club of Bury, what I'm going to say, but personally, I think the Bury situation is the least of all our problems at this moment in time. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm not so sure how they would have done this Phoenix Club, because Bury Football Club, as we speak, are still alive and kicking.
Yeah,
it's still there. It's still an existing. Exactly. So if they've applied, and we won't know, I don't know whether they have or they haven't, to the Football Association for a placement. If they have, and we don't know, then I don't think this Phoenix club will go ahead, because a Phoenix club can only be introduced if that club's basically gone. But that club hasn't gone yet. So I don't want to get in the realms of that.
Yeah.
I just think that's least of it. I think when people are putting about the Phoenix club on, I don't think that's really relevant at this moment in time.
Yeah, but going back to the Paul Lawler, the way in which Paul has represented the clubs at Northwest Counties can only be applauded, Brent.
Fantastic, because it's easy. Even in the past, when I've had issues, Paul wasn't the chairman. Like you kind of want things doing, and you can't. I find in the past I've had the feelings of, oh, the league aren't really bothered. They've got their own issues. They're not really bothered. I'm only kind of one voice, and they haven't really bothered about it. But you know what? I have to admire Paul on this situation, because he's kind of picked the baton up and he's ran with it, and he's seen it that it's not right, and he knows more than any of us, because he's actually sat on that webinar, and he knows what was said, and he knows what's gone on, and probably to a point, it's a kind of a situation where, in some ways, he's got to be careful what he says when he comes out, and if we have him on, like we had him on the podcast the other week, he's got to be guarded what he says. Look, I don't give a monkey's what I say, because nobody rules me here, do they? I mean, what does it matter to me? I mean, unless I overstep the mark where I could be in a lawsuit, because
but at the end of the day,
but with Paul Lawler, it's a bit different, because he's got to be careful, because he's representing the Northwest Counties League. So if he oversteps the mark, and even though he's done a remarkable job by something that he said, he could be like frowned upon by the people in the power in the corridors of power, that he's saying stuff like that and doing stuff. So he's got to be very, very guarded and careful what he says. It's a bit like, I know we're digressing here, it's a bit like the Mike Halsey situation, the referee. The FA tried to gag him. They didn't want his boot coming out, because he knew too much what were going on about in the referee system and all that. You need to read his book. It's fantastic. It just tells you all you need to know about the FA. They fought to get that. That's why he's not refereeing or involved in it anymore, because they fought to gag him. They didn't want that being brought to the table. And this is what I'm saying. Paul Lawler, in a way, to a point, he's got to a buffer, and that's probably why he's turning around now on social media last night hopefully in frustration. We all think the same, where he's going, I kind of sometimes think, we're volunteers and I've worked really hard on this, and do I need it? And I've got my family to think about, and everybody else, and do I really need to be doing this?
I've just shown that.
But you know what? Let me just say something. We really do need him to do that, but he needs backers. Like I'll back him 100%, because at the end of the day, we're a voice, and it's not about today; it's about tomorrow. It is about today, but really, it's about the long-term future of the non-league game. Yeah. We're non-league at the end of the day, and we need to have as much of a voice as them higher up at step. Because
having the voice is paramount. If you don't have the voice, Brent, then what is the point in all of this?
Well, exactly, and it's your future, it's your career, it's your clubs. They must look at it as though we're just it's just
this is
it doesn't matter.
Dog and duck playing on a Saturday afternoon. This
is the real world.
Money to run.
Correct. I've said it on the last podcast. Us clubs, wherever we're situated, that are playing in the tier of football, we're mini versions of our peers. Yeah. I.e., in our society, we're a mini version of Accrington, Rochdale, Burnley. Mini version.
But it becomes apparent that we're not valued we're not put in the same context. We're not valued the same as the bigger clubs.
No, because money talks, something, and obviously people up there, the sponsorships and everything else, queued off.
You talk about the sponsorships.
When you see
why they're going to continue the season is because it's all about sponsorships and revenue streams.
Well, it is, and unfortunately, that's how it is. I mean, again, another person that kind of speaks a lot of sense and speaks his mind, and he's obviously going to be rattling a few cages in the corridors of power, is Andy Holt at Accrington. But he talks a lot of sense. I mean, what he said yesterday, and you know what concerns me? I pick things out of what people like Andy Holt says, and without going into the politics of how it can affect the clubs and what's going on. One point he made in there And he's got an absolute, and it concerns me because you know what, with these people that's running our game at the minute, what I'm going to say now could actually happen, because he's made a point in one of his Twitter feeds yesterday, where he actually says that it's been the National Health has predicted that even though, like, in 56 days, technically they can get back and it'll have died down. He says that the National Health are predicting that in November, December, the coronavirus is going to be back again in a vengeance again at that time. Now, I don't know where that information's come from, but that's on his Twitter feed, right? Now, let's take it, for instance, what he's going on about there. He's actually saying, so at that point, you know, people are going to automatically lock down themselves. The government will, you know, because, you know, they'll probably be frightened of it and they'll lock down. So that'll affect our gates and everything else. But my point is, if that's going to be the case and that's out there, not publicly known yet, but then eventually it will be public known, are these people who's made this decision on the null and void season going, oh, just hang on, you know, we can't start, hang on, let's get that out of the way and then we'll start season. It could be another 12 months before non-league football kicks off.
Yeah. Is that what you think? You think we're in real danger of that scenario taking place, Brent?
Well, I don't, it's not what I think. It's just that I don't know, because, but when I see an upstanding businessman, which he is, an upstanding businessman who's a chairman of a football club, which he's done. And listen, I speak. Let's just cut away from this here now a minute. I speak to people like the accountants of this football club happen to be kind of connected with Accrington Stanley Football Club. I have conversations with people that are in business and like accountants and that who you know the ins and outs of what's going on, you know, within Andy Holt's business and Accrington Stanley. Obviously, don't tell me private and confidential stuff, obviously, but what they do say, you know, he's absolutely, and we can see that anyway, turn that club around unbelievably. Right, and to a situation where, and all he's doing, like he classed on this Twitter feed, where he goes about, I think he said something like, "I'm a chancer. 80% of me in my business is I'm a chancer, but 20% is making logical." He said, so then I look ahead, and he said, when I look at, and he said, when I look ahead, this is basically what he's saying. When I look ahead, I look for any obstacles. He said he called it icebergs. He said, I look for any icebergs, because he's looking ahead, isn't he? He's right. You know, I love him. You know, I've never met the guy, but I'd love to, because he's different class. He probably talks a lot of my language, or I talk his, I don't know. But anyway, he's talking about icebergs. And then he goes, the only iceberg I saw was Brexit.
Yeah.
He said, and I could get over Brexit. And he said, and then behind that has come the COVID-19. He said, so we've got to know, and he's trying to get to the point of where he's trying to say, we need to know it's all right, these people making decisions in the corridors of power, because they want to hurriedly get the season out the way so they don't have to pay the TV money back. Yeah, but he said, I want to know what's going to happen next year. Take the hypothetical scenario, if Sky were to withdraw their support, and he said they could easily do, because he said he even quotes that he's put his Sky account on hold because there's no Sky Sports anymore.
Yeah, and if they're not getting the revenue in, then there's a good chance they could pull the plug. Yeah,
so he's kind of asking the question. So if this were to happen, what's going to replace that money? Because he said I could easily go out and raise money on the stadium, but I am certainly not going to do that. I am not going to put my club at risk by doing that. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So he goes on about these situations, but then he goes on. Obviously, he's really talking about, and he happened to mention that this COVID again 19 is due again in November, December. So what he's basically saying, again, on forecasting, if people are going to self-isolate themselves and going to be on lockdown when it strikes again, right? that is going to have nobody's going to go out the doors. So they're going to be playing football, and there's going to be nobody in the stadiums. Is basically what he's saying. Now, so what I'm trying to come back to, if that's affecting Accrington Stanley, which is 7 mile one way from Bacup down the road, right? Yeah. If that's going to have an impact on kind of Accrington, it's going to have a knock-on effect for kind of Bacup Borough.
Yeah.
You know, so what I'm trying to get at, if these people in power at non-league, these national league guys, are they going to say, because let's be honest, we're not back yet. We haven't even cleaned. It says nil and void, so they're not going to. This season, next season, is not going to start when it should start, is it? On the first Saturday in August. It ain't happening. You know, I don't think it'll happen. Do you? When it normally happens, first Saturday in August or whatever. I don't think that'll happen.
No.
So if it doesn't happen, when are they going to kick the season started in? And if it's forecast that it's going to come again in November, December, are they going to wait? Are they going to make a decision to start it after it's gone again? So which will be then January, February. So we're talking nearly bleeding 12 months.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a lot of questions to be answered.
I don't trust these people who are running our league after what's going on now, so I don't trust them. Because, you know, somewhere along the line, they'll make another bonkers decision.
Just a quick one. A lot of people taking to social media over the last couple of days regarding the massive void that seems to be between the FA and the non-league system. Is there a chance that, you know, the same way that the Premiership has broken away and made up its own, you know, kind of system, is there a way in which the non-league could do the same, Brent? Is that a possibility if they had the right things in place?
I think everything's a possibility, everything. But it comes down to support, backing, and money.
Because the representation's not there.
No, I get that. But it comes down to, look, people have got to be serious about this. I mean, what I'm saying about being serious, it's all right shouting from the rooftop now because you're at top of the league, right? You've got a vested interest. I'm not top of the league.
No.
Right? I'm a voice at the minute talking to you and talking to people I know because I love football. I'm passionate for the game. Game in general.
You've got empathy for the clubs at the top.
And I got empathy because that's what we're challenging for. You know, that's what we're challenging for. We're challenging to be in their position, and I've been in their position, right? And I know what I'd feel like if I was in their position now and this situation was happening.
You feel cheated.
Correct. So consequently, what I'm trying to get at is this season now, because of what's gone on, there's a lot of backing out there, but what I'm trying to get at is really thinking, will these clubs who's being a voice now, will they continue to be a voice when we start a new season and
when there's
nothing for them? That's what I'm saying. And I think it's important for something what you've just suggested to kick off the ground. They've got to carry it through. There's got to be a body of people, whoever them people, and ideally not connected with a club. Right, because that'll contradict what I've been saying before. Because I don't think it can work when you're connected with a club.
Yeah, there can't be that conflict of interest in order for something to, you know, gather momentum in a positive way.
No, correct. What you've got to do, you've got to make decisions.
Otherwise, there's business grey areas.
You've got to make business decisions for the benefit of the game as a whole, and you can't do it on the pretense because somebody's got a vested interest. You know, you go back to the days what we talked about back in the day when the football league clubs chairman would stick together and they'd vote for re-election for their own club, so it was like a closed shop. You couldn't get your Altringhams back in the 60s, 70s in the world into the football league.
Where the Rochdale stayed there all the time.
Yeah, they stayed there all the time. Yeah. I mean, just touching on Rochdale, I got a nice email this week from one of my former players who were talking about Rochdale. I mean, they're feeling a massive pinch in terms of, like we touch on Burnley, we touch on Accrington. You know, the bottom line is, if they hadn't have had their cup, they've done a piece, and he sent me this piece. If they hadn't have had their cup run that they had,
Yeah.
They'd have been having sleepless nights out of them directors because, like you know, and 50% of their income is from gate money. You know, so even playing behind closed doors is another. Even playing behind closed doors is another issue. It's not going to benefit these clubs like Rochdale, like Burnley, like Lincoln Accrington. It's not going to benefit them because they've still got. I think Andy Holt touched on it when he turned around and said, "I've got on furlough, all my staff, everything. I've got on furlough, so that's costing us all money straight away to put a game on behind closed doors."
Mm.
But everything's being rushed. Why is it being rushed? Because you know they don't want. Obviously, it's all about the money situation. So, but going back to your point, what you said in the previously when you said, is there a chance that people could break away like the Barclays Premier League have? Well, anybody can do anything, but talk's cheap.
It is.
You need the finances
and the backing.
You need the backing. You need committed people, and then you've half a chance. So there's a long way to go with that point, but I'd like to see it or I'd like to see listen, Steve, come on, let's go. You ask yourself a question. Right? Why has there been over past few years, and it's not so long ago, probably in the last 3 years, that they were banging on the drum saying there needs to be a reform within the Football Association nationally? It's been on news. Why has top people in the game, top people that I call like Mr. Bernstein, who was connected with Manchester City and people like that, good people in the FA, why have they dropped out? Why have they dropped out? There's a reason, Steve, why they've gone. And they've gone because obviously they don't. I'm getting. Look, I'm not as much in the know, but it tells me that they don't like the way that the system is, and that's why they've got out. And the FA have lost over time good, valuable football people. So there's a reason, and I think that really, instead of trying to get
it's a business. It's a business. If you're good with spreadsheets, then you're in. If you're passionate about football, maybe you stand half a chance.
Yeah, but the person I'm talking about, Mr. Bernstein, I'm sure he'd be good with a balance sheet and stuff like that. I'm talking really good people, you know, that have been connected with big clubs, you know, that they've stepped away from the FA.
Well, they've certainly seen something which they don't like.
Correct, and there must be. And why is people demanding, and why is when there's things happen and said there needs to be a reform? But you know what? It never comes to the fore when they do a reform. You know, it's gone on, and they've said, "Oh, we found this and we found that," but then it doesn't. It seems to like kind of be all brushed under the carpet and doesn't come any further. I really think with what's happened this year, instead of all this trying to say, like you saying, can we not break away from? Can people not break away from the FA? I don't think it needs all that. I think it just needs the whole shebang, top to bottom, completely revamping and re-looking at. Because I don't think this National League system that's headed by Lawrence Jones, right? And I've had this situation before, how that works, and with people at step 3 and 4 making decisions for the rest of us. It's just not right. And then when it goes to the FA for clarification, let's be honest, if you're in business and I'm in business, I have a business. If I have a complaint, right, like I go back to my furniture removal and storage business that I were operating. Sometimes you have systems that you send out confirmations of the removal, estimates, prices, everybody sign it, return it, you go out on the job. And while they're out on the job and doing the job, you might get a phone call. Mrs. Jones might ring up and start complaining about something, or something's gone wrong. Now, I don't just, as soon as my lads come back, I don't just go and jump at them down the throat. I'll get them a cup of coffee and sit down with them and start having a bit of a chat loosely, you know, quietly, nicely, about not even the removal. And then I'll drop onto it and I'll say, how did that removal go today? And they'll go, oh, it went all right. Why? I say, was there not a bit of a problem? We want to, like this wardrobe that won't go upstairs. Oh, well, they were, and they weren't. She were telling us to do this, and we said we'd do that. I said, well, that's not. Why? She'd been on. Yeah, she'd been on.
Yeah.
So then, all of a sudden, you're getting two sides to a
You're building
story.
up a picture from
You're
both
building up
angles.
Correct. And then when you built that picture up, you can make a decision. And then when you go back to her, because you spoke to the lads, and you pick a phone up, oh, Mrs. Jones, you know, I've just spoke to the lads. Did they have a conversation with you? And they go, oh, well, they did. Yeah, well, it puts a different light on things, you know. So you get what I'm saying. But it doesn't seem like that in these situations is happening with the FA. It seems to be that this blinking Lawrence Jones's cronies and all them at that side are going back to the FA, telling them this is what's happened, everybody's agreed on it, and the FA are just going, all right, have they? Bang, rubber stamps, gone. It can't be right, that.
No. No, when you're getting thousands of people taking to social media saying the total opposite of what Lawrence Jones is saying.
Exactly. And they haven't answered. He made a good point. Andrew Simpson.
Yeah, he's made some fantastic
who's a freelance
points,
journalist who covers all the 1874 and Northwich and Northwich itself.
One
and
question has been
Runcorn.
answered.
He listed them all, and he said, and they haven't answered one question. But they will have to do. This is what I'm saying. All they've done is just gone, right, well, we've done the right things now. But they'll have to do, and this is what I'm saying. Now's the time while this coronavirus situation on is, maybe we get together and we, you know, it needs a reform in the non-league system, just like it should do. It needs completely revamping for the future of. We can't have this situation. It can't happen. You can't go in and then all of a sudden, because something happens and they can nil and void the season. I know people say, listen, it's not every year you've got this coronavirus situation. We know that, but it's not only this hasn't just happened with this. Decisions about the playoffs. You know, you look at teams that have gone up in our league from the playoffs, and then all of a sudden they stopped them.
Yeah.
Why have they stopped? There's no reason why they had to stop the playoffs at our level. None whatsoever. But they did. It weren't the Northwest Counties decision.
And that's what people are upset about, is the fact that time and time again we're being overlooked, and it just seems that we have no voice. From step 3 down to 7, there is no voice.
No voice, exactly. It's wrong.
I just want to say, Brent, that I know you've had a few comments during the course of the week regarding the Sports Bar Show. It's always good to get good feedback, and maybe people coming up with suggestions for new topics.
Yeah, it's excellent. You know, we've had, like I said, I got a private message through my LinkedIn the other day from Mr. Wright, one of my he's a good lad, and he's a Rochdale supporter, and he sent me. I'd like to talk more about their situation, but obviously this situation, what broke last night, has overtaken that. But it's good that he's listening to the show, and he enjoys it. He said he enjoyed it, and and I would have brought a lot of the Rochdale points up a lot more. And then we've had somebody that lives down, Mr. O'Neill, that lives down in the Midlands. He's been in touch and he's made some suggestions, and it's good. It's good that people. I'd like to think. Listen, we're not always going to get everything right, Steve.
Well, we don't want to. We're too fat and we talk a lot of balls.
Balls, yeah, exactly. But it is what it is. I mean, we're two passionate people, and we'll say one thing you'll get from me. Yeah. I'll speak from the heart. Sometimes I overstep the mark, but at the end of the day,
I think what it is, Brent, because we are passionate about the game, we don't sit in anyone's pocket. We're not scared to say what comes from inside. I've got to say, fantastic work by Ollie Bayliss. He's been with this from start to present, and I'm sure he'll continue. And he's one person who certainly has shined a bright light on all of this.
He has. He's done brilliant. He's done brilliant. He's got his. It's like he's got his teeth into it, and he's really chewing it.
That's what we need from a journalistic point of view. That's exactly what we need in order to give the lower league.
Well, prime example, Steve. He's a neutral.
Yeah.
He doesn't favour any of these. He's not favouring any of these. Like, listen. You know,
I mean, as much as interest, and he's not scared to lose his job.
He's not got a vested interest in the clubs. He just looks at it and it can't be right. He's reporting facts, and he kind of doesn't make opinions, but he's guided in what he says, which is fair enough. But you can pick up what he's getting at with the stats he puts, you know, and it is what it is. But I firmly believe, personally, there should be more people in the game. Like, look, not everybody, because people say I'm like Marmite, me, because, but yeah, they're like, but listen, I say what I think. If I don't like somebody, I'll tell them I don't like you. Now, that's how I think Andy Holt's a bit like. Yeah. Now, he's rattling some cages, is Andy Holt. I've noticed he's rattling, but he talks a lot of sense. And you know what? There needs to be more Andy Holt's. I feel there needs to be more. I feel, and I'm going to be biased here, but there needs to be more Brent Peters, because I won't listen. I'm respectful to people that I need to be respectful to, but even if I'm respectful to people, I've got a close. He's been a business partner of mine that actually a few years ago sat on the FA Council. I respect him so much. Do I respect this guy? And he's been a former Football League chairman. He's been a chief executive. I respect him so much. He's a top guy. But if I feel that something he says to me, I don't agree with, I'm not a yes man. I'll go, well, no, you know what? I kind of don't agree with that. And I kind of don't agree with it. And he'll say why, and then we'll agree to disagree. Do you get me? Yeah. And that's how it should be. But there's too many people out there in the game. You know, honestly, it's like they're yes men, and that, you know, it's wrong. It's wrong. We'll never get anywhere by being like that. You've got to be open. And not everybody will agree. Not everybody agrees with me. Not everybody will agree with you. Not everybody will agree with Ollie Bayliss. Not everybody will agree with Gary Neville. But he's a voice.
But of course, you know, we use the word respect is used quite a lot within the corridors of power. But like respect, it's a two-way street, Brent, isn't it?
Well, how do these people look? How do they expect to get respect when
they're not showing any?
Exactly, in the way that they portray things and do things. You know, I backtrack to what Simon Gerrard did yesterday. Now, I've got a little bit, in some ways, I have got a bit of respect for Simon at the LFA, because.
But in the fact that he put it out there.
Yeah, exactly. He's put it out there. Now, the fact that everybody else hasn't done that and it hasn't gone anywhere else, that's because the system's all wrong. But there's a guy there at Lancashire Football Association, chief executive, that's got a vote. He could have kept it in-house and things. You know, it's gone, because I'll go back to Ollie Bayliss' situation where he goes, council members have got to vote electronically. Well, he's a council member, so he could have gone, well, I firmly believe, I've seen all what's going on, but I firmly believe null and void. He could have voted, end of. But you know what? To be fair to Simon, he's put it out to his, although we say it were rushed and it were all that, credit to him. He's put it out to us to have a voice.
Yeah.
And I've got to respect that.
Excellent. And we're going to end there. It's been a interesting show this morning, Brent. I'm sure, hopefully, the viewers will enjoy what we've got to say. And if they want to make any comments, then please do send us your comments in. Any suggestions for future shows, just get in touch with us at the Sports Bar Show and we'll be happy to cover them.
Yeah, we certainly will. Thank you.
See you later, mate.
Have a good day.